Sir, I can make your daughter walk again, said the beggar boy. The millionaire turned and froze. It was the kind of morning that made you breathe deeper just to see the steam leave your mouth. Birmingham, Alabama was wrapped in the kind of cold that stung but didn't freeze a cruel in-between that made your skin ache and your bones remember old pain. Outside the Children's Rehabilitation Center, people shuffled like clockwork parents in a hurry. Nurses on breaks. Doctors between rounds. Most kept their heads down. Eyes on phones or clutching lukewarm coffee. Nobody noticed the boy. He was easy to miss. 9 years old. Skinny. Dark hoodie 2 sizes too big. His left boot was duct-taped across the toe like a wound he couldn't afford to fix. He sat cross-legged on a folded cardboard panel near the revolving door, scribbling into a notebook that looked older than he was. The boy's name was Micah. Micah didn't ask for money. He didn't speak, unless spoken to, but he was always there Saturday after Saturday like part of the hospital's architecture. Some staff tried to move him at first, thinking he was loitering, but after a while, they gave up. He caused no trouble, just drew pictures, watched. He watched everything. Cars came and went. People broke down and built themselves back up in that revolving door. Micah kept quiet, kept sketching, until one morning, he spoke. A black Audi SUV pulled up across the street and idled illegally near a hydrant. Inside, William Carter rubbed his temples. His custom-fitted trench coat lay crumpled beside him. Forgotten. His shirt collar was wilted. His tie was unknotted. He looked like a man who had fought for everything and lost something anyway. In the back seat, his daughter Ava stared at nothing. 6 years old. Curly hair clipped back. A small blanket across her lap. Her legs, lifeless, tucked beneath her like afterthoughts. She hadn't spoken much since the crash. 1 minute she was leaping off swing sets and skipping through puddles. The next, her spine betrayed her, and silence became her second skin. William got out, opened the back door, and lifted Ava into his arms. He didn't notice Micah. Not yet. Micah, however, noticed everything. The way William cradled her like glass. The way Ava's eyes stared above his shoulder, not at the building, but at the clouds. He watched them for 1 breath, 2, and then he stood. Sir, Micah called out, his voice steady, too calm for a child. I can help your daughter walk again. William paused mid-step, not because he was offended, but because of how the words were said. Not like a joke, not like a scam, just certainty, calm, real. He turned, narrowing his eyes. What did you say? Micah stepped forward, notebook tucked under one arm. I said I can help her. William squinted. He took in the boy's jacket. The taped boot, the red knit cap barely clinging to his ears. He tightened his grip on Ava. That's not funny. I wasn't joking. The boy didn't flinch, didn't shift, just stood there. Hands relaxed by his side, like he'd said something as simple as, "It's Tuesday." William stared longer than he should have. Then he turned and walked into the hospital, the doors swallowing them whole. But something about that moment stayed. In the clinic, the hours crawled. Ava endured another battery of tests, electrical pulses, stretches, hopeful machines, and William sat through it all with numb precision. Every specialist gave the same speech in different costumes. Nerve damage, long road, no guarantees, stay strong. William had learned how to nod at the right words. He had perfected the face of hope for Ava's sake. But inside, he was empty. No anger, no fire, just fog. Except Micah's voice still echoed in his skull. I can help her. By the time they left, the sun had broken through the clouds. but the cold still clung to the air. As William crossed the sidewalk toward the Audi, Ava nestled quietly against his chest, eyes fluttering closed from fatigue. And there he was again. Micah. Same spot. Same cardboard mat. Only this time, he wasn't sketching. He was waiting, like he knew they'd come back. William exhaled through his nose and approached him. "You again," he muttered. Micah looked up, face calm. "You think this is a joke? You think my daughter's life is a game?" Micah shook his head. "No. Sia, you don't know her. You don't know what we've been through. I don't need to know her to help." William clenched his jaw. "You're a child. 9. Maybe 10. What could you possibly do for her?" Micah lowered his eyes, fingers tracing the spine of his notebook. "My mom, she used to help people walk again. Physical therapy. She taught me some things. She said the body remembers, even when it forgets for a while." William blinked. "So what, you watched her do stretches and think you're a doctor now?" "I watched her heal people with nothing but her hands and hope." That silenced him. Nearby, a janitor walking by gave Micah a small wave. A nurse smiled at him as she passed. They all knew him. No one looked concerned that he was talking to a stranger's child. "I'm not giving you money," William said flatly. "I never asked for it." "Then what do you want?" Micah looked up, voice low but clear. "1 hour. Just let me try." William was about to say something biting, something final, but when he looked down at Ava, she was awake now, watching the boy, watching everything. He sighed. "Harrington Park," he said. "Tomorrow. Noon. You be there." Micah nodded. "I will." William walked away without another word. But in the mirror, as he drove off, he saw the boy still standing, unmoving, unafraid. Harrington Park wasn't the kind of place you'd write home about. A cracked basketball court, a half-dead oak tree in the center, rusting swings that groaned with every push. The grass had long surrendered to patches of dirt. Even the pigeons looked bored. But Micah was already there. He sat on the bench closest to the oak, legs swinging, face turned toward the morning sun. His notebook was zipped away in a small, faded gym bag at his feet. On the bench beside him, a neatly folded towel, a plastic container wrapped in cloth, and an old water bottle with paint-chipped flowers. At 12:07, the Audi pulled in. William didn't say anything at first. He opened the back door, scooped Ava into his arms, and pushed the wheelchair forward in silence. He looked like a man halfway through a decision he hadn't finished making. Micah stood. "Hi again," he said gently. William gave a curt nod. Ava lifted her fingers in a shy wave. "Hi, Micah." Micah smiled wide. "Hey, Ava." William blinked. "How do you know her name? You said it yesterday." Micah replied. "I remember stuff." William's eyes narrowed a little. But he didn't argue. He just gestured toward the towel. "So what now?" he asked. "Magic beans. Healing chance." Micah ignored the jab. Just the basics. From his bag, he pulled out a tennis ball, a small jar of cocoa butter, and a rice pack wrapped in a faded yellow sock. He arranged everything on the towel with care, like it was sacred. "My mom used this stuff," he explained. "The rice is for warmth. It helps muscles relax. The ball is for pressure points. The rest is attention." William folded his arms. "Wary. And you think that'll make her walk?" "I think it'll help her remember how..." Micah turned to Ava, his voice lowering to something even softer. "Can I work with your legs a little? Just some gentle stuff." And if anything feels weird, you say stop. Okay. Ava looked to her father. William sighed. You can try, he said, rubbing the back of his neck. Just be careful. Micah knelt beside her chair like it was the most natural thing in the world. He lifted the rice pack and gently rested it across her thighs. Too hot? He asked. Ava flinched, then shook her head. It feels good. He waited. Not rushed. Just waited. Then, slowly, he began rotating her leg-small movements, like coaxing memory from a dusty shelf. He didn't force. He didn't push. He just moved with care. His fingers mapped her muscles like they were messages, and he was just trying to read them. William watched, arms still crossed. You ever actually done this before? He asked. Micah didn't look up. Used to help my mom after school. She worked at shelters, mostly veterans. Said therapy shouldn't be a luxury. William raised an eyebrow. And she taught you all this? She said, the body doesn't always need big machines. Just attention. And time. He tapped Ava's knee lightly. You feel that? Ava shook her head. Micah nodded, like he expected that. That's okay. We'll keep asking. He kept working, talking to Ava the whole time. What's your favorite cartoon? Do you like strawberries or mango better? Ever try marshmallows in your cereal? Her answers were short at first, then longer. Then she started asking him things. You live around here? Sort of. You go to school? Used to. Why not anymore? Micah paused. My mom got sick. Then she passed. Oh, I've been figuring things out since. William's posture eased slightly. Micah tapped Ava's ankle again. You feel that? She blinked. Kind of. Like pressure. Micah looked up at William. That's good. William tried to hide his reaction, but his eyes flicked toward Ava with something close to wonder. She sometimes says that during regular sessions, he said quickly, trying not to sound impressed. Micah nodded. But in a hospital room, there's machines. Fear. Kids get tight. Scared. Here, he glanced at the sky. The world feels bigger. They worked for 40 more minutes. Micah showed Ava how to wiggle her toes. Nothing big. No dramatic shifts. But her face had changed. Her eyes held light. She tried. Not because she believed she could walk, but because someone else believed it might be possible. As they packed up, William cleared his throat. We're not promising anything, he said firmly, glancing at Micah. Micah nodded. I'm not either. I'm just trying. William stared at the boy, then did something unexpected. He reached into his coat and pulled out a folded $20 bill. Here, for your time. Micah took a step back. No. Sire, I don't want money. William froze. Then why are you doing this? Micah looked at Ava. Her smile was soft. Peaceful. Because she smiled. William didn't reply. He didn't know what to say. Micah gathered his things. Ava waved again. Bye. Micah. Bye. Ava. Keep talking to your legs. Okay. They're listening. William wheeled her away in silence. But his steps were slower this time. That night, back at the house, Ava rolled up to the kitchen table and lifted a crayon to draw for the first time in months. William stood by the window, watching the sky darken. His daughter had smiled, because of a kid with taped-up boots and too much wisdom in his voice. Something inside him cracked. Not broken, just open. The next Sunday, Harrington Park felt different. The wind was gentler. The sun arrived earlier. Even the oak tree's shadow leaned a little closer to the bench where Micah sat like it was watching too. He was there before noon. Just like last time. Same coat. Same gimbak. Same duct-taped boots. But this time, his shoulders didn't curl in quite so much. He sat taller, like he was waiting for something, not just hoping for it. At 11:59, the Audi pulled in. Ava's face was already pressed to the window before the car came to a stop. Her curls bounced as she waved through the glass. When William stepped out and helped her into the chair, she grinned wide. "Hi, Micah." He smiled back. "Hey, Superstar." William followed a step behind. Arms crossed, but something about him was looser, this time. Less steel. More skin. Micah had already laid the towel out beneath the oak tree. The rice pack was still warm. The cocoa butter still sealed. And the tennis ball freshly cleaned. He even had an extra pair of socks folded on the side. Ava wheeled herself over without needing a push. William let her. "You ready?" Micah asked. She nodded. "I've been practicing talking to my legs." Micah's face lit up. "That's good. They listen better when you speak with love." William chuckled under his breath. "You sound like a yoga instructor." Micah shrugged. "My mom said healing needs two things, warmth and words." He helped Ava onto the towel and placed the heated rice gently across her legs again. She didn't flinch this time. She closed her eyes and let it sit there, trusting the heat to do its quiet work. "Can you press your heels into the ground?" Micah asked after a few minutes. Ava tensed her face. Nothing happened. "It's okay," he said gently. "Sometimes it takes your brain a while to find the right road. It's like driving through fog. Just gotta keep your hands on the wheel." William knelt beside them, watching everything, every touch, every breath. He wasn't crossing his arms anymore. He was listening. Micah guided Ava through the same stretches as the week before. But something had changed. Her responses were quicker. Her ankles moved easier. Her eyes stayed bright. "Try tapping your toes," Micah said. Ava stared at them. "Nothing yet." "That's okay. They heard you. They're just stretching in their sleep." William raised an eyebrow. "You make this sound like magic." Micah looked up. "It's not magic. It's memory. The body forgets when it's hurt. You just remind it it's still loved." There was silence for a moment. Not awkward. Sacred. After another 30 minutes, they sat back to breathe. Ava wiped sweat from her temple. William passed her a water bottle. "Why do you keep doing this?" he asked Micah. His voice low but honest. "Now." Micah didn't answer right away. He picked up the tennis ball, rolled it gently in his palms. "Because I remember how it felt when my mom helped people," he said finally. "She made them feel human, even when everything else made them feel broken." William nodded slowly. "And you want to do that too?" Micah looked up, eyes clear. "I already am." There was no arrogance in his voice, just fact, like gravity or sunrise. William didn't speak again. He didn't need to. They finished the session, and as Ava climbed back into her chair, she reached for Micah's hand. "Thank you." He smiled. "Don't thank me yet. We've got more walking to do." As they loaded into the SUV, William paused and reached into a paper bag on the front seat. He walked back and handed Micah a sandwich. "Turkey and cheese," he said. "No mayo." Micah looked surprised. "Thanks. No big deal," William replied, turning away. Micah held the sandwich carefully, like it was something fragile, something earned. That evening, back at home, Ava sat at the kitchen counter, legs dangling over the edge, chattering about her favorite cartoons again. Her voice filled the space that used to echo with silence. William stood at the sink, drying dishes. But his mind was far away. This time, when he looked out the window, he wasn't thinking about what he'd lost. He was thinking about what was being rebuilt, one quiet hour at a time. It rained all Saturday night. The kind of rain that rattled windows, soaked roots, and washed the world of dust and comfort. By morning, the clouds still hovered, like a bruise over Birmingham. But Harrington Park didn't care. The court was slick. The swings were puddle-soaked. The towel Micah always used, he carried a new one in his bag folded tightly in a plastic grocery sack. Because he'd seen the clouds coming. At 11:45, he was there. Coat zipped, hood up, gear ready. He sat under the crooked oak, watching the park drip, waiting. By 12:10, the Audi pulled in, but the air felt wrong. When the door opened, Ava didn't bounce in her seat like usual. Her curls hung limp. Her smile didn't show. William's jaw was tight. His eyes were red. Micah stood quickly. William lifted Ava into the chair. But she didn't look at Micah. She kept her head turned to the side, lips pressed into a tight line. Micah's voice was soft. What happened? William shook his head, speaking low. She had a bad morning. Micah approached carefully, kneeling beside her like always. But Ava wouldn't meet his eyes. I tried this morning, she whispered suddenly, voice clipped and trembling. I woke up early, tried to move my legs, and nothing happened. Not even a twitch. I'm tired of trying. Micah froze. William stepped back slightly, rubbing the bridge of his nose. She's been like this since breakfast. Refused her therapy session. Wouldn't talk to anyone. Micah nodded. Slowly, he turned back to Ava. You think I've never been tired? Still. She didn't look up. You think I didn't sit in shelter some nights watching my mom cough and cry, and I couldn't do anything but hold her bag and wish the world would notice? Silence. You're allowed to be mad, he said. I'm mad sometimes too. But if you stop trying now, the part of you that still wants to walk might stop trying too. Her fingers twitched in her lap. Micah lowered his voice even more. I don't come here because I think you're broken. I come here because I believe something inside you is still moving, even when you can't see it. Finally, she looked at him, and her eyes weren't angry anymore. They were scared. I'm just scared it's never going to happen. Micah nodded. So am I. But scared doesn't mean stop. It just means something big is close. You don't feel scared when nothing's coming. You feel scared when you're right at the edge of something new. She blinked slowly, then whispered, Okay. And that was enough. They worked in silence that day. No warm rice pack, just gentle stretches through damp clothes. No games or stories, just touch. Patience. Breath. William didn't speak much either. He helped this time, steadying Ava's hips as Micah rotated her legs. Midway through the session, something happened. Micah tapped her right ankle gently. You feel that? Ava closed her eyes. A little pressure. He nodded. Now try pushing your heel down. Nothing moved. Again, Micah said. Kid her now. She grit her teeth, squinted her eyes, and then like a whisper her foot shifted forward. Not a toe, not a twitch. Her foot. William knelt beside her, stunned. Do it again. She did. It moved slower than before. Stiff and awkward. But it moved. Micah didn't smile. He didn't cheer. He just sat back and watched. Because sometimes the most powerful moment isn't the miracle, it's the decision to try again after believing it's hopeless. Later that evening, back in their kitchen, Ava sat at the table, drawing something on the back of a takeout menu. William leaned in. What's that? She held it up. A little stick figure, standing tall, big curly hair. A boy beside her in a hoodie. And underneath, written in uneven letters, Micah says, "I'm not broken." William didn't say anything. He didn't need to, because for the first time in months, the house didn't feel heavy. It felt like a storm had passed and something had survived. The rain didn't return that week, but something softer did. In the mornings, William noticed how Ava hummed while brushing her teeth. She used to be silent even with him in the room, but now her voice was beginning to return to ordinary places. On Friday night, she asked him if they could go to the park early on Sunday. "We don't have to start right away," she said, eyes hopeful. "I just want to be there." William didn't argue. He just smiled and nodded. When Sunday came, they arrived at Harrington Park at 11:30. Micah was already there, seated on the grass this time. He had no towel laid out yet. "No, Riche. No Daniel's ball." He was just sketching in his notebook, the one with its spine nearly torn and its corners chewed from wear. As the Audi pulled up, he looked up and smiled. "Morning," he called. Ava grinned and waved. "We're early. I figured you might be." Micah gently closed his notebook and set it aside. "Ready to try standing today." William blinked. Standing. Micah didn't flinch. "We won't force anything. Just explore. Let her body feel what it's like to hold weight again, even if it's just for a few seconds." William glanced at Ava. She gave a small, "Never nud. I want to try." They spread the towel. Micah brought out a cloth belt, this time looped it gently under Ava's knees and showed William where to place his hands behind her back. "Just in case. It's her movement," he explained. "We just balance her." Ava took a breath. "What if I fall? Then we catch you," William said quietly. Micah counted softly. 1, 2, 3. With their combined support, Ava's body lifted. Slowly, her legs quivered. Her arms trembled. Her face scrunched up with effort. And for exactly 2.5 seconds she stood, her knees buckled. And she collapsed into William's arms with a sharp gasp. But she was laughing. Micah grinned. "You did it." Ava beamed. "I stood." William held her close. His own eyes were glassy. "You really did." They didn't say much the rest of that session. They didn't need to. The work spoke for itself. But later, as the sun began its slow descent behind the park's broken swings, William found himself lingering. Micah was packing up his things with quiet focus, slipping the rice pack back into the bag, folding the towel like a practiced ritual. William stepped closer. "Hey," he said. Micah looked up. "Yeah." William hesitated, then asked the question, "Where do you go after this?" Micah blinked. "Just around," he said after a moment. "Sometimes a friend's porch. Sometimes I stay with a guy from church. Sometimes nowhere." William exhaled slowly, his hands in his pockets. "You have a place to sleep tonight." Micah shrugged. "I'll figure it out." Silence. Then William said it. The thing that had been tugging at him for days now. "You ever think about staying with us? Just for a while?" Micah froze. "You serious?" William nodded. "I've got a guest room. Ava already thinks of you as family. You'd have a bed, hot meals, no strings." Micah looked down at his boots. "I'm not exactly neighbor-friendly." William chuckled softly. "You've helped my daughter smile again. If any neighbor has a problem with that, I'll help them pack." Still, Micah didn't answer. Not yet. That night, he sat by himself behind the church steps near the west side of town. His bag was his pillow. His blanket was thin, but he couldn't sleep. William's voice echoed in his chest. You'd have a bed, no strings. Micah had heard promises before. From teachers, from shelters, from adults who meant well but disappeared. But William hadn't disappeared. Not once. And Ava had called him her friend. The next morning, just after Sove, Nool, William opened his front door wearing a coffee-stained t-shirt and mismatched slippers. Standing on the porch was Micah, backpack slung over one shoulder, rolled-up blanket in hand. His eyes tired, but hopeful. Is this still okay? He asked. William stepped back, holding the door wide. Yeah, he said. It's more than okay. Ava came sprint-wheeling down the hallway. Micah. He smiled wide. Hey. Superstar. William closed the door behind him. For the first time in years, that house didn't feel too big or too quiet. It felt like a home with something sacred inside. A girl learning to walk again. A man learning how to trust. And a boy who never stopped believing. The first night Micah spent in the Reeves home, he didn't unpack. He didn't hang his coat or unfold his blanket. Even though William had already laid out clean sheets and a pillow, he just sat at the edge of the bed in the guest room, staring at the nightstand like it might vanish. But it didn't. Nothing did. The room stayed. The house stayed. The quiet hum of the dishwasher downstairs stayed. And when morning came, so did the smell of toast and eggs. Micah stepped into the kitchen just as William was pouring coffee. You like your eggs scrambled or fried? William asked casually. Like it was normal. Micah blinked. Whichever. Ava rolled into the room a second later, still in her pajamas. Hair messy. Cheeks glowing. You ready? She asked him. Like they'd been doing this forever. He smiled. Always. They started stretching in the living room before the sun had fully risen. No towel. No crowd. Just the two of them and the soft creak of an old wooden floor. Micah showed Ava how to press her heels against a resistance band, how to rotate her ankles while lying on the couch, and how to speak to her muscles like they were teammates lazy. Sleepy teammates who needed encouragement. By the time William joined them with a second mug of coffee, Ava was already giggling. She said her toes were being dramatic. Micah explained with a grin. William leaned on the doorframe, watching. He didn't interrupt. He didn't want to break the spell. That Sunday, they returned to Harrington Park. But it wasn't just them anymore. Two new families were already waiting near the oak tree. One had a little boy with leg braces and wide, curious eyes. The other had a girl maybe 7 recovering from a stroke. Her right side, still weak. Her mother kneeling beside her nervously. Micah stopped mid-step. He turned to William. Brows furrowed. You invite them. William shook his head. No. I think word's getting out. Micah stared at the two families. Unsure. You don't have to. William said quietly. You owe no one anything. But Micah adjusted the strap on his gym bag and exhaled. I want to. That afternoon, he gave Ava her stretches first. Then he turned to the new children. He introduced himself softly, respectfully, not like a teacher, more like a big brother who had shown up to walk them through the dark. He showed the parents how to warm the rice packs, how to roll tennis balls under their kids' feet to stimulate nerve response. He explained that muscles sometimes go quiet, not because they're gone, but because they're grieving. You're not broken, he told the little girl gently. You're just learning a different way to be strong. Ava watched from her chair, hands resting in her lap. She didn't ask for attention. She just smiled, proud, as Micah helped someone else. Later that day, in the back seat on the way home, Ava whispered, It's kind of like church. William glanced at her in the mirror. What is? Watching Micah help people. It feels like something good. He smiled. Yeah, I guess it does. Oh. The next weekend, there were 5 families. A retired pastor brought a stack of folding chairs from his truck. A bakery owner left a box of free bagels by the bench. Someone else printed simple flyers. Free movement sessions. Sundays at noon. Harrington Park. They didn't mention Micah's name, but everyone knew who it was. Micah still laid out the towel the same way. Still warmed the rice the same way. Still asked. You feel that after every touch. But now the circle was bigger. Now, when Ava wiggled her toes, other children clapped. When another kid lifted a knee, Ava reached out to high-five them. It wasn't therapy anymore. It was community. It was healing braided into habit, knotted into routine, like shoelaces that kept everyone from slipping. And somehow, through it all, Micah remained Micah. He still wore the duct-taped boots, still sketched in his notebook when no one needed him, still sat on the same bench when the sessions were overwatching the world, as if waiting for someone else who needed reminding. You're not alone. You're not forgotten. And healing might just be a little boy in a hand-me-down jacket who believes in you more than you believe in yourself. It had been 9 Sundays. 9 towels laid gently on grass. 9 mornings of Ava whispering, I can try instead of, what if I can't? 9 weeks of Micah showing up with a bag full of simple tools and an unshakable belief that healing doesn't need machines, just hands. Breath. And hope. And today, something was different. Micah felt it before they even left the house. The air was softer. The silence at breakfast wasn't anxious. It was focused. Ava hardly spoke, but her eyes had that look again, like she was already halfway up the mountain. And all she had to do was take the next step. When they arrived at Harrington Park, families were already gathered under the old oak tree. The bench had been moved to make space. Someone had brought a big blanket for the kids to sit on. There was a thermos of hot chocolate. A few nurses from the hospital stood quietly near the back, watching without interrupting. The circle felt bigger now, but quieter, like everyone knew something was about to happen. Micah set his bag down without a word. Ava rolled forward, hands gripping the wheels of her chair. William followed close behind, carrying a yoga mat and a water bottle. But his posture had changed too. His steps were calm, like a man ready to witness something, not control it. Micah unfolded the towel on the grass. Ava wheeled herself directly into the center. You ready? He asked. She nodded once. No grin. No nerves. Just readiness. William knelt behind her, looping his arms under hers. Micah crouched in front, taking both her legs, positioning them gently, firmly, like someone laying bricks for a foundation. Same as before. He whispered, We help you stand, but you do the rest. Ava closed her eyes. The wind held its breath. 1. Micah counted softly. 2. 3. They lifted, and she stood. This time, no trembling collapse. No short-lived pose. She stood taller, stronger. Micah steadied her knees. William loosened his grip slightly. Ava opened her eyes and whispered, I'm up. The crowd didn't cheer. No one clapped. They just watched. Micah blinked slowly. Yeah. Ava. You are. She looked down at her legs, then forward. Then before anyone could ask, she moved her right foot. 1 step. Then the left. Another. And then the third wobbly. Brave. Pure magic. She stumbled. William lunged. But she caught herself. She laughed. A full, open laugh, that broke the last bit of silence in the park. Now the clapping came. Soft at first, then louder. Parents gasped. Kids cheered. A therapist wiped tears. A stranger whispered a prayer. William knelt beside her, shaking. "You did it," he said, his voice cracking. You did it." Ava turned to Micah, eyes wide. "You said I would." Micah shook his head, smiling through glassy eyes. "I said we'd try. The rest, that was all you." She reached for his hand. He held it. For just a second. The boy who had once sat outside a hospital with duct tape on his boots looked like the strongest person in the world. Later that afternoon, no one left the park in a hurry. People stayed. They shared sandwiches, told stories, hugged a little longer. Ava played with a girl in braces. William spoke with another father whose son had just started moving his toes. And Micah, he sat quietly under the tree again, notebook open, sketching, like always. But this time, the page didn't show legs, or feet, or medical diagrams. He was drawing a bench, under an oak tree, with 2 stick figures, one tall, one small, both walking, side by side. The morning after Ava took her first steps, Harrington Park wasn't just a local meeting spot anymore. It was a headline. The nurse who had seen Ava rolling through the rehab center months earlier, she'd been at the park that Sunday, too. She didn't record anything. She didn't interrupt. But she told her sister, who worked in outpatient services, who told a physical therapist, who told her husband, who happened to know a local reporter from the Birmingham Post. Wednesday. An article ran on page 2. 9-year-old with a gift helps dozens heal in a city park. Every Sunday at noon. A boy with nothing but a gym bag and a worn notebook teaches kids to move against him for the first time. His name is Micah, and he's changing lives. No last name. No hospital affiliation. No mention of William or Ava, but it didn't matter. People found out anyway. By the following weekend, Harrington Park didn't feel the same. There were families, more than a dozen, new faces, curious eyes. Some carried folding chairs. Others brought food, blankets, medical journals. A few came with camera smartphones raised cautiously, as if afraid to break the spell. Micah noticed the difference before he even got to the bench. He paused at the edge of the grass, his bag hanging heavier than usual. William stepped beside him. "You okay?" he asked. Micah didn't answer at first. Then, "They're not here for Ava anymore." William followed his gaze. "No," he said. "They're here because they believe again." Micah nodded once, but his jaw was tight. His eyes scanned the faces like he was trying to find someone lost in a crowd. He set his bag down, laid out the towel. But the rhythm had changed. He still started with Ava, still warmed the rice pack, still massaged her legs gently, still asked, "You feel that?" But then a new mother stepped forward, her toddler in her arms. "Micah," she said, voice soft, almost reverent. "Could you maybe show me what you showed them?" Micah looked at William. William looked back. "You don't have to," he whispered. "You don't owe anyone." Micah looked at the child, no, older than 3 with leg braces and wide, nervous eyes. "I want to," he said. He spent the next hour moving between families. He didn't try to heal anyone. He just showed them what he knew. How to warm the muscles before touching them. How to speak to a child like they weren't broken. How to give time, not pressure. And the entire time, Ava sat quietly, watching, not jealous, not afraid, just proud. When the session ended, Micah packed slowly. The crowd lingered, hesitant to leave. That's when the woman in the gray coat approached. She wore a lanyard from a well-known hospital. Her hair was neat. Her voice practiced. "Micah," she said, smiling like she rehearsed it. "My name is Dr. Rowe. Halberg. I work in pediatric rehab downtown." He nodded once. "Cautious. I read about you," she continued, "and I'd love to offer you something. Our nonprofit would be honored to sponsor equipment, Supply 7 tutoring. If you're interested." Micah blinked. "Sponsor me." She nodded. "You have a rare instinct. We'd like to help you go further." Micah stepped back slightly, the familiar tension returning to his shoulders. "I'm not trying to go anywhere," he said. "I'm just helping people who show up." "Doctor," Halberg kept smiling, "and with the right support, you could help thousands." William stepped in gently. "Maybe let him think about it." She nodded, stepping back. "Of course. You know where to find me." Micah didn't answer. He just picked up his bag and turned toward the bench. And two. That night, the Reeves house was quiet. Ava was asleep early. The living room was still. Micah sat at the kitchen table, notebook open, but he hadn't touched his pencil in over an hour. William sat across from him, sipping tea. "You know," he said quietly, "you don't have to say yes to anything." Micah kept his eyes on the blank page. "I know. I also think you've already changed more lives than most people do in a lifetime." Micah looked up. "Then why do I feel like it's slipping away?" William leaned in. "Because you built something real. And real things attract noise. But the truth, the part that matters, is still there." Micah tapped the notebook's edge. "I'm scared if I say yes to them, I lose what made this matter." William smiled. "Then don't say yes to them. Say yes to you. Say yes to what your mom taught you. Say yes to what you saw in Ava. That's the only yes that counts." Micah looked down again, exhaled through his nose. Then, slowly, he picked up the pencil and began to draw. The next Sunday, the crowd was larger. A local church donated a canopy tent. A high school band played gentle acoustic music in the background. And at exactly noon, Micah stepped onto the grass knoll, rice pack, tennis ball in hand. He walked up to Ava first. "You ready?" She nodded. "Let's help them." Micah smiled and got to work. He didn't wear a new coat. He didn't take the hospital's money. He didn't hand out business cards or accept titles. But he taught, and because he taught, people learned. And because they learned, people healed. One Sunday at a time. One breath at a time. One small, miraculous step at a time. It had been 3 months since Micah first stood outside the children's hospital with nothing but a notebook and a belief too big for his boots. Now, Harrington Park was unrecognizable. Every Sunday at noon, the field beneath the oak tree became something sacred. Not a clinic, not a school. Something warmer, something alive. Folding chairs stretched in a circle. Yoga mats laid neatly on the grass. Children in braces. Parents in hoodies. Strangers who became friends. Coffee. Laughter. And always Micah, kneeling quietly on his towel like a gardener tending seedlings. The city called it Micah's Circle, but he never did. To him, it was just the place where we try. Iswar. That final Sunday in October, the sky glowed with a soft golden hue. Leaves scattered across the field like applause from the trees. The breeze was cool, not cold, the kind of air that makes your chest open a little wider. Micah arrived early, as usual. But today, He didn't lay out his towel. He just sat on the bench with his notebook open and a small smile playing at the corners of his mouth. Ava was the first to arrive. She no longer used a wheelchair. She walked, now slowly, carefully, but proudly, one step at a time, with braces hugging her ankles and her curls tied back in a red ribbon. She sat beside him, out of breath, grinning. "Guess what?" she said. Micah raised an eyebrow. "I made it from the car without holding my dad's hand." Micah smiled. "You're going to be faster than me soon." "Already am," she teased. William came next, carrying 2 cups of hot chocolate. He handed one to Micah without a word, then sat on the other side of the bench. The 3 of them sat there for a long time just watching. More families arrived. One boy took 5 steps for the first time. A girl who hadn't spoken in weeks sang the chorus of a cartoon theme song. A grandmother wept while her grandson reached down and picked up his dropped toy in his own. Nobody needed permission to clap anymore. Nobody waited for miracles to begin. They brought their own hope. Micah stood slowly and walked to the center of the group. He held up both hands not to quiet them, but just to gather them. Everyone turned to listen. And in the quiet, Micah said only this: "You don't have to be a doctor to heal someone. You just have to show up and believe that broken things can grow. You don't need a title. You don't need a cure. You just need a heart that refuses to quit." Then he sat back down, pulled out his sketch pad, and began to draw. No stage, no applause. Just a boy with tape on his shoes and a gift no one could buy. The ability to remind people they weren't alone. Time. That night, back at the Reeves home. Dinner was simple grilled cheese and soup. Ava sat at the table with homework in front of her. William washed dishes. Micah sat at the kitchen counter, drawing something in the notebook, something he wouldn't show yet. William glanced over. "You ever think about going back to school?" he asked. Micah nodded. "Sometimes. Well, if you ever want to, we'll figure it out. You could be anything." Micah smiled. "I already am something." William turned, drying his hands. "And what's that?" Micah tapped his chest once. "A reminder." William chuckled, then paused. "Micah, you changed our lives." Micah looked up. "No, you let me." Ezer. 2 months later, a foundation quietly offered Micah a full scholarship should he ever decide to use it. He didn't respond right away. He wasn't in a rush, because every Sunday, the park was still full. Ava still walked beside him. And every time someone asked, "Are you the boy from the newspaper?" Micah would shrug and say, "I'm just the kid who kept showing up." 1. In a city that had once walked past him, now people stopped. They waved. They smiled. Not because he was famous, but because in a world full of noise, Micah had done something most grown-ups forget how to do. He listened. He waited. And he believed, even when no one asked him to, even when no one was watching. Especially then,